You are listening to CrossTalk, a safe place to discuss addiction, recovery, harm reduction, and everything in between. Support for this podcast comes from the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort and Advocates of Recovery. Content and production by the team at Turning Point Recovery Community Center. Now, buckle up and get ready for the show.
All right, welcome everyone to CrossTalk Recovery, the recovery podcast that supports all forms of recovery. I'm Matt Lewis, and I'm here with
Nathan Brockett,
Matt Lacefield,
and Will Kaler.
Matt and Will work out the Fuller Center in Mayfield. Matt is the program manager out there and one of the therapists, and Will is one of the peer support specialists out there. I'm glad you guys are here today. I have never been through the Fuller Center other than to drop off and pick up. As the people know on here, I've only been to one treatment center, which is rare in recovery, I guess. But
me too. Me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you went through Fuller and then Centerpoint, so you got two.
Okay.
But so I'm interested to learn a little bit more about what you guys do out there.
Yeah, so we are inpatient residential treatment center with 28 days. And that can be adjusted. We can give a little longer. We've learned that now with insurance and stuff. We address SUD, substance use disorder, but we also deal with dual diagnosis. So if anybody's got, like, most of us do, most people, most of us deal with some kind of dual diagnosis, meaning any kind of, depression, anxiety disorders, and not just depression or anxiety, but the actual disorder with it. We'll help address that as well. Now, we are only 28 days, so I like to call it the scratching of the surface.
Yes, that's what they told me when I first got in there.
And then I think any real, I don't want to say any real clinician, but any person that works in the clinical field is going to know that it's a long process. And what I think we're here to do is really just try to get people on the ground and get to the level of care they need afterwards. So, and we also do, and one important factor that I don't know if enough people know is that we have we do men and women there, so that's a big deal. We don't have a lot of women.
No.
There's not enough women in recovery, and I think it's an outreach that really needs to be out there.
Well, of course, I get that. See, I was blown away when I first walked in there, and there were women. I was like, I didn't know that this kind of thing existed. Yeah. It was pretty cool. Not like I was chasing them or anything, but
and we try to, and we try to keep a tie on that. We try to make sure strict gender separation with that, but we're sick. We get into recovery, we're sick. So. And everybody's got their journey of recovery, and our job, I think, is to help you get to that. So you get in that first 28 days, and that's that detox period,
right.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Because I know that it was still 2 months, and I had the shakes when I was in there. 28 days wouldn't have been enough for me, but you guys do help connect people to long-term recovery that really want to go on and continue it, right?
I think that's what we're known for almost. If people call up to Centerpoint, they're like, you can go to the Fuller. By the way, that's not always true, but it is. We normally try to connect people we have ties with Centerpoint here in Paducah, so we have ties with Centerpoint, and we can usually get people right into that care, but Centerpoint is hard to get into. Yeah. Y'all know. Definitely. So it takes time, and it may or may not happen, but we do usually get people right into there. If we can't get you in there, that's where Will comes in, and he really helps out with that. So I'll work with the clients individually. If I'm their therapist in there, we have another therapist and hoping to hire another one. But I'll work with them at an individual level, see what they want to do, because we're a person-centered place, so we work with the people. We want to get what kind of care is going to work best for you as the individual. Yeah. And he'll connect them with outside resources. He'll connect them with other treatment centers. He's getting some really good connections now.
Yeah, basically, that is my whole job, is to figure out what you're going to do when you leave that 28-day program and where you want to go and what place is going to suit you best. That's how I got to Centerpoint, was I went through the Fuller Center and then went to Centerpoint. But I've also discovered that everybody doesn't want to take the same road that I did. No. Everybody doesn't want to go to Centerpoint. Some of them want a more relaxed atmosphere. They don't like the community dynamic. They don't like the peer-driven dynamic. And, I want people to recover, so you don't have to do it the same way that I did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, the great thing about that scratching the surface that Matt was talking about is, I wouldn't have been ready for center point if you'd have just stuck me right in center point.
No,
I'd have probably
sir.
got kicked out. My attitude was,
I can only imagine.
my attitude was a bit of a problem, and that scratching of the surface, they got me just in line enough that center point could peel back more layers,
Yeah.
that we hadn't touched yet. And that's what I want for the people that I work with now, man. Touching on the women thing, there's not a lot of places to even send females.
Absolutely not.
No.
That's been one of our bigger struggles, man.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we're humans. People, everybody's got problems. Then you got women that they don't have places to go, and especially for treatment. And then even after treatment, we still have that issue too. So it'd be nice if we could, that could open up a little more. But oh well,
Yeah.
we're doing our best.
The women thing, and I think we're getting into a new era of recovery. I really believe that, and maybe I'm just optimistic. I don't know, but I believe we are, and I believe people are starting to seek treatment more. And women in the past, it's been known that they didn't seek treatment as much, mostly because they had custody of their kids and things like that.
Yeah.
So people didn't have as many treatment centers opening up, and I think that we're starting to move that way, but it's still very difficult, and that's why I try to make it a big deal that, we have an inpatient treatment center that can help you. We work with outside entities if we can, like DCBS and things like that. We've had people be sent there or came on their own a lot of times because DCBS makes, I call them soft referrals. So it means they're gonna be like, hey, you really need to seek some treatment, and that's part of their goal to get their kids back or something like that, or not lose their kids.
Right.
And so we try to make sure we accommodate them with all that.
That's
those kind of
awesome,
needs.
man.
Yeah.
That is definitely awesome.
It's a great resource.
I know, like Will was talking about with bridging. That was your first experience. That was my very, very first experience with recovery in general. So I'm, when I'm in jail, they do the whole, hey, if you want to go to treatment, you can, but you have to go through Fuller to get to center point. You're going to be in treatment for X amount of months. Do you want to do that? And I was like, if it'll change my life, whatever. And I got there whenever COVID was hitting. So man. I got to do the whole 7 days quarantine, just freaking out, like what's going on in here. But I did read the NA book and part of the AA book when I was in there. But when I got out of there, I had no idea what was going on. And when I got out of there, the first person I seen was Ricky Martin. And he kind of broke it down for me. But when I started getting into the groups and all that stuff, that intro was, scratching the surface, that intro in AA and, that camaraderie, that was the big part for me. Because I walked in there and everybody's like, hey, we're glad you're here. It's good to see you. You're in a great place. Reassured me that I was safe and all that stuff. And that's the beginning of how it all started. I started being able to open up with other people and being comfortable with being an alcoholic or an addict and, being able to talk to other people that are just like me. Because people that are just like me, most of them I've seen are in jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So here we are, a place that people care about you. The CAs down there do a phenomenal job. So, man, that was... I always hype Fuller up as much as I can, being that's home for me. And being able, and even now, 2 years down the road, I get to go back and do outreach. Like when I was doing the peer support before you got hired on over there, and I loved it. It was cool to see how I could use my experience of that resource alone and be like, hey, you don't have to go to Center Point. We sending people to Mark Center. We sending people wherever they wanted, like you said, person-centered. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, it was in my order that I had to go to Center Point, but it was just at that time, it was just cool. I felt like I'm not at a dead end just because I've screwed my life up so bad.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. And a lot of people that I interact with have been at Fuller. You got people that went through Fuller that are working there.
Yeah.
Like that. I think it's just a family almost. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I do know of several success stories of people who just went through there and have stayed sober and doing good. And I've met lots of people in recovery that always talk good about you, Matt, saying that you've helped them out a lot. We'll be right back.
Did you know that recovery from substance use disorder and mental health go hand in hand? That is why the caring and compassionate mental health professionals at Four Rivers Behavioral Health in Paducah are here to help you find your balance. They are proud of you for making the changes necessary to live a healthier life and would love to see you reach your full potential. Give them a call at 270-442-7121 or stop by the downtown location at 425 Broadway in Paducah, Kentucky.
Hey y'all, did you know it's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland because they get lonely? Here at Turning Point, we don't want you to ever be lonely either. That's why we are open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Always feel free to come hang with our friendly staff, and don't forget your guinea pig. We're located at 415 Broadway Street, downtown Paducah.
I know that Matt is my sponsor as well, and he helped me out a lot coming through the program. Tell us a little bit how you got into recovery in the first place.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like Nathan was talking about, court orders, Unfortunately, we live in a time where we call it a disorder. We even call it a disease, and it's not treated like that.
Right.
But fortunately for me, it ended up being treated like
Absolutely.
one. And I didn't go to short term. I didn't get that opportunity, and it was probably in my best interest. Started at a real young age, just like most of us. I was, experimenting in the beginning. But, I used to tell this story, and I used to be like, well, it was a really short time. But I look back at hindsight's 2020. Mm-hmm. It was quick.
It was.
I progressed really quick, Like, next thing you know, I'm using every drug because it felt good, Right. I probably had a lot of things, the reason I didn't feel good or something, because I liked the way it felt, and I was using all kinds of stuff, and eventually it caught up to me, and it caught up to me pretty fast too. I used to think that it happened like, I used for a while. No, like I was in a lot of trouble, and I was in a lot of predicaments at a young age. My first rehab, we talked about how many rehabs you went to. My first rehab was at 15 years old.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, I went to a place in Bowling Green called Rivendell, and I spent 45 days there. Now, I had no intentions on staying sober. Matter of fact, they told me, they said, man, there's something wrong. You're 15 in a treatment center. And I'm like, well, I was like, maybe I just don't need to use these drugs anymore. I can switch this out. And so I found like what I thought was the wonder drug, and a little speed, next thing you know, I'm off to the races with that. And it lasted for a little while. Once again, it seemed like a long time. It was misery. That's probably why it felt so long.
Yeah.
Because it was fun for just a short period of time that I wanted to stretch out and make it seem like forever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was misery. And I had to live in that for a while. So that felt like a long time. And it was really just a few short years. You think 15 to 20. And I ended up in some trouble between that time too. And but at 18, that's when we can start getting our big boy charges. So at 20 years old, I was pulled over, and I remember the first time they told me, and I was facing a charge that carried 10 to 20 years. And I told that cop, I said, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't rob a bank. And I said, I didn't even hurt anybody. And he said, man, you're hurting everybody around you,
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was still pretty resentful at the time, though. So, I didn't really think that it was a big deal. And I thought that they were overreacting.
It's everybody else's fault but mine.
So I got the opportunity through the DOC to go to Centerpoint. I never even heard of Paducah.
Yeah.
I'm from like the Bowling Green area. It's hard. Like I could tell people where I'm from, but they'll be like, "Where?" I lived in Bowling Green for a few years. We'll put it that way. So I lived there, and I was so recluse with my addiction that I'd never even heard of Paducah. I realized that I was recluse. It was really just me being isolated, because I get on the interstate and it says Paducah all the way from Bowling Green to Paducah, So anyway, I got on the, I went to Centerpoint after some time incarcerated, and I thought that I had the program, and I really thought I just needed another chance. I just turned 21. They released me from incarceration, and I just turned 21. I thought, okay, I'm young. I just needed another chance.
Right.
And, I really didn't use. It's not that I really didn't use. I didn't use. I didn't use for. I made it right at a year mark. That's a big deal for us in recovery. And
right.
I could look back, and I would be what we called the dry drunk, though. I was miserable. And how I always tell people this. How I noticed that I was miserable? I looked around at a meeting that I was at, a 12-step meeting, and I was chairing the meeting, and I thought, what would these people do without me? What they did without me? They still had the meeting.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I was in that state of mind. And I went home to Bowling Green because I had some good excuse, and eventually it caught back up to me. I used again. Started with just one drink, and I always love that. I love the fact that people had told me for so long, like, you can't take one, Matt. You're different than other people. And I'm like, no,
I got this.
It's the other problems I've got, It's not the drinking. And for me, it's all of it. I couldn't do any of that stuff for me. It took one drink. It put that same phenomenon of craving off in my head. And
off to the races.
Yeah, back to the races.
I get it.
And, once again, it seemed like forever. And it was just a short period of time, and I was right back incarcerated,
Them bad times seem to go on for so long, don't they?
They do, it really does, And the way I used to tell my story is I'd be like, well, I was out there using for quite some time. Really, it wasn't long at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think if I look back, I think it was 6 months to 4 months or something like that I was using. And that's not that long, but it's a long time for people like us, in that misery and then...
I get it.
Looking at death, but
especially after with a little bit of recovery in you, guilt, shame, and remorse.
Yep. Well, anyway, I got the opportunity to go back to Centerpoint. So once again, the justice system did me some good. I hope that we do start to move in the way that I was talking about with looking at this as a disorder or a disease, however you want to look at it. I would call it a disorder because it's clinical. But. Whatever you got to call it, it's a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when we start treating it, I think that's when it's going to be important. Right. So, but I went back through there, and y'all know the story from there. Some of you do. Like, I stayed there. I worked there for. I did the peer mentor thing for a year. There's a little bit bad about it. I lived in that building for 18 months, and. I tell people this all the time. It's not because I wanted to live in treatment. I was sick of institutions.
I absolutely understand that.
I wanted to be better. I wanted my life to be better, and this is the problem that we have with the 28 days and people choosing where they want to go sometimes. And it's not like a complete choice. We work with them, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in that mindset, I need to get back home, and that's where I was for a long time.
Yeah.
Then you go back to the same stuff. So we want to make sure we get the best care, and that's what me and Will try. Will's peer support, so he could tell him a little bit harsher than I can, but we want to make sure people get the best care, because I knew this time it was that same old story. I was going to go back out there, and I was going to do the same thing again.
Right.
If I was to go back out, I was going to live with Mom. She's going to have a car, and there's work nearby, and she's going to provide a place to live, and it all sounds good, but. I did whatever it took, and my story goes on to school and working at Centerpoint as a caseworker, to working my way into management, continuing school the whole time. Moved to Fuller when I got my bachelor's degree, became a clinician, and then moved up into the management there. And now I'm the program manager there. Now I have my master's degree and stuff. So yeah,
that's awesome.
You know what's crazy? I just remembered this. I was at Fuller when you very first started there.
Yeah.
Wow, he's slick back hair.
I remember. Confirm or deny.
We'll call it that. But it's just crazy looking back, man. It don't seem like that long ago.
No, it really don't, man. Time flies. There's that person that says that it's in the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And I think the reason they say that is because this is a beautiful journey.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about in recovery, or when you were out there, it seemed like forever. But since I've been sober, it seems like such a short period of time. But so much time has passed,
And we can remember it.
Right, exactly.
So, whenever y'all don't just bridge them to treatment, so say that they don't want to go to treatment after 28 days. Y'all also were connected with the sober living and stuff like that in the areas, and y'all have pretty good success with that.
Man, I guess really, like I've said about everything, I wish we had more options, because sometimes the beds are full there.
Right.
But yeah, I pretty much anything you're willing to do, because it's hard to get some of us to want to engage in anything after 28 days. Some of us come there just for that, to satisfy that court order or whatever it is. And I want something to stick. So if they don't want to go to treatment, sober living, if you will just settle with letting me help you find a sponsor before you leave. I do that sometimes. I'll start making phone calls. Luckily, I've been in this long enough so far that I know quite a few
built
of
a good
y'all.
connection. Absolutely. It's one big happy family, isn't it?
So I start making phone calls and then getting people to at least build somewhat of a relationship. They know
Yeah.
someone they can call. They have a phone number when they leave. They have a list of meetings near their hometown. I don't care if they live 6 hours away. I'll make sure I give them a list of meetings where they're at, and try to get them somewhat involved, because everybody doesn't want to go to another treatment center right after.
So it's as soon as they walk through the door, you're pretty much there with them.
Yeah, I'm on it even before they come out of quarantine if they have to get quarantined.
That's awesome.
I try to go out there and not every time, but I'll take them to smoke and stuff like that, and just kind of build a relationship, because I get it. I was there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I 100% understand what it's like to be in there and not know if you even want that.
It's scary, man. It was for me, at least.
Yeah, kind of like what you were saying. When I went there, I can remember I had made a decision I was not going to tell anybody how bad I actually was. I was like,
Really?
I had made a decision. Like, I didn't even know why I was there 100%, but I was like, you know what? I'm not telling these people that I do drugs every day and I'm homeless. I don't know nobody in this room. And then someone else shared, and they were honest, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be honest. I plan on lying to everybody.
And look how you grew from that. You know?
Oh
what I mean?
yeah, man,
That's
it
awesome.
was.
And I remember, I think one of the scariest parts of when I was at Fuller was when we had to do that timeline. I spent so much time on that. I was like, I got to get this right, because I was so scared of it, though. I was like, if I'm scared of it, I'm going to hit it head on and just try to get this out. And I spent so much time in that book y'all gave us. And then Miss Carol gives you that big binder, and I was like, man, I dug through all that, just trying to get my mind together. And, I got up there and being able to share with people. And everybody, you could see it whenever you share your story. There's always somebody you can see that's like, I get that, I feel that, and that's when for me, with the growing part of it, being able to share with another person and just feeling connected, not so alone in this world like I'd felt for so many years, man. So I attribute this whole thing to me being at Fuller. Honestly, if it hadn't have been what you guys had going on there at that time, I don't know if I'd be here today.
That's awesome.
So it's and then you as where you're at now.
Yeah.
You are a shining example of I see guys doing that. Went through the same path that I'm doing. You're a little further ahead, and you got the master's degree. You're helping people in a positive way, and that's something that that I really look forward to being able to do one day. God willing. So I just it's good to see that people that are just like me doing big things.
Yeah.
That's it. Can't beat that.
Matt brought it up, and Will did too now, and I think it's just something important is that, we do it all the time, and we do it. We're lucky enough, all of us at this table, we're doing it in our workplace.
Yeah.
But even outside our workplace, sponsorship, we help people so they can see that side that you're talking about, but it also helps us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And connecting them with sponsors and stuff like that. That's what we try to do. And it's hard to do that. We don't have a lot of community. We're in Mayfield. And I don't know if I mentioned that earlier or not, but so connecting people with people in Mayfield can be difficult sometimes, and navigating that with the sponsorship, and people are going all over the place and stuff.
Yeah.
But being able to hear that story.
We'll be right back.
Join us June 4th for Turning Point's first annual Recovery Walk to Fight Substance Use Disorder, presented by the Regional Prevention Center at Four Rivers Behavioral Health. The event starts at 10 a.m. at Noble Park. Everyone is invited as a part of a community that supports people in recovery. There will be food, prizes, fellowship, and activities for kids. The walk is sponsored by the Partnership for Better Health, the Kim Musgrave Team, the Graves County Exchange Program, and the Opioid Task Force. See you June 4th.
Hello, everybody. You want to know something? My biggest issue with meetings is, despite their name, they are never about me. Here at Turning Point, all of our meetings are for you and about you. We have meetings at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We are located at 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky. Call 270-444-3621 for more information.
Hey, I was thinking about the timeline assignment you was talking about it, and those are I believe they're Hazleton that provides that those assignments, the first step and the timeline, and they're both connected to the first step. That's what we work there, right? Yeah. And that first step is the manageability and admitting you're an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's a lot of factors, and I don't know if they meant to do this whenever they made those assignments, but as a clinician, as a therapist, I look at that and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much into that. Like you said, first you're helping other people by you sharing your story, but you're also helping yourself in so many ways we don't even see. Like, there's a lot of things we've never shared to a group, you know?
Oh, yeah, man.
There's a lot of things that we've never worked through ourselves, you know?
Uh-oh. Is that a blooper? Is that going to blooper reel?
No.
Okay.
It's all right. Somebody in the closet next door. No. What exactly is the timeline assignment?
Man, all right. So it was pretty much where they handed me a composition notebook like we get when we're in elementary school. Write your story. And I was like, or like pretty much what led you here. Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I mean, I went from being where I was born, tried to think of when I was born, like as far as time. I mean, I went in that in depth, you know, talked about, I put a lot of dark stuff in that composition notebook because, you know, my dad dying, you know, my granddaddy dying from alcoholism, my uncle's crazy escapades that I went through with him. And I'd never done that before. I'd never, you know, kind of put eyes on it. It was all just in here. And being able to write that down and be brave enough to do it and face that right there and reread it because, you know, they're busy at Fuller, but you do have time. Yeah. I was in quarantine when they let me go ahead and start doing mine. That's, you know, and so I was in there by myself doing all that. And
you had a little extra time.
Yeah. And I took that extra time, but that was so meaningful because, you know, it was like I was working through it right then. It was almost like my own version of a fifth step to myself a little bit, and then it just made it easier to share it with somebody else. When I had it, because you know when you get up and talk in front of people, it's always like when you're going to give your lead, it's like, oh, I know what I'm going to say, but it always goes different. I had it right here in front of me and was able to just it hit the major points, but I was just, man, I don't know. You know, I'm sure any of you guys ever told your story or anything like that, like being able to talk that stuff off you or being in a one-on-one setting with someone when you're having an issue, being able to talk to them about that and get deep with it. It was, I don't know. It works wonders.
It's kind of like the 30 assignments you do when you get to center point, because I was the same way. Like I enjoy writing a lot. I'm not really good at talking, but I enjoyed writing, and I can get it all out that way. And I felt the same way about those assignments when I got there. Just to actually, that's excuse me. That's like you first taking a look at it and really going back over. It's like a mini 4-step of really like reliving some of the shit and realizing why you're there and that you deserve to be there, you know.
And don't just think it's all about book work neither, man. Like I remember we watched a lot of videos and shows about. I remember one in particular. It was about the cookie. Like you remember the ones you get in the little jar. I can't remember who showed it, but it was like when you eat the cookie, your brain registers success. And it's kind of like using alcohol or drugs. Your mind registers success. And I learned about all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I bet it was Susan. Yeah.
Yes, Miss Susan. Yes,
yes.
And she told me, and I got all these pieces of paper that showed me, you know, methamphetamine's effects on the brain, where it showed holes in it. I mean, all this stuff that I'd never known about. And it wasn't a flood of information. It was like I was welcome to understand this stuff. Yeah. And it was really cool. I watched I Am Bill W. there.
Man, me too.
Still haven't seen that.
It put me in full all in my emotions. You know, I got up and walked out on the part where his wife is having a miscarriage and hemorrhaging and he's out drunk. Yeah. And not there for her. I got up and walked out and they was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "That's me."
Yeah, that was an open air and opportunity to work on that one. That's what I'm saying. So that's exactly what I mean.
That facing yourself for the first time and exactly who and what you've been, you know, it was scary.
Yeah, it was cool. Never played cornhole until I got to. Never played cornhole. You know, I used to watch the. For some reason I remember it was like every other day the cops were over across the street at the crisis. Oh yeah, I was still afraid of police by then, and I was like, oh my god, what are they here for? I remember still kind of being a little bit high. What's going on here? But it's such a wonderful place, you know. And did you guys have any problems when the tornado came around? You know,
well, we didn't get hit at all, thank God. But you know, so there's a few factors with that. So like we're actually getting a lot of the people though now.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, that have been hit by the tornado, and they're kind of coming out of the woodworks, and that's one thing that we were able to deal with as well. Is that's a trauma, man. Oh, yeah. That's a huge trauma, and we got people with acute PTSD right now that are dealing with the aftermath of that tornado, and their homes got carried with them in it, you know, and all kinds of things like that. And, you know, there's so many examples, but, you know, we've got people there like Danielle that is actually trained in EMDR.
She's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, she was my clinician when I was there.
Wow, and she's the go-to. If I got any questions, she's my boss. She's been my boss since I've been there. But even more so than that, it's somebody that's knowledgeable about clinical work. And and I always say, I've realized this. I don't have any dual diagnosis per se. I probably have a lot of them, but I'm not, nothing treated at the moment besides with the recovery program that I work in, the variations of coping skills that I've learned. I always say that you've got to work on that mental health, and that could just simply be working on, like I just said, coping skills in order to deal with everyday life. I didn't deal with everyday life before, so you got to deal with that mental health. I was dealing with a lot of grieving when I got to recovery this time, and I knew something was wrong. I was like, man, I want recovery, but I don't at the same time. Yeah. I was ambivalent about it. I wanted it, but didn't, and so I knew something was wrong, and I went to therapy and did grieving for a while, and thank God I did that, because it changed my motivation for recovery, because I was able to get on the right side of the street for that. Like I wanted it and didn't want it before. Now I'm okay. Now I want it again. And I've got the tools here at this treatment center, and they're helping me get it. So we deal with, like I said, that dual diagnosis part of that. We've got really trained professionals like Danielle that can do certain things like EMDR that I'm not trained in myself.
Right.
I hope to be one day, but it's a very touchy kind of treatment, so you need the right people doing that kind of stuff.
I get it. And that ambivalence you're talking about, man, y'all are like the front line of trying to get people over that hump. Sometimes I wanted to be there when I first got there, because it was like, hey, this time I'm going to change. But I was there with people that didn't want nothing to do with it. Yeah. But I've also watched them change. There's still people that I was there with that are sober today. Yeah. So it's y'all were like I said, my first introduction to what life is like in recovery. So
yeah, I was one of those people. I didn't want to be there. I was just homeless.
Oh well, I get that. I mean, y'all gave me a home, gave me a bed, gave me food. Man, I remember eating what was it? Drinking the heck out of apple juice. I know it's probably absolutely irrelevant to what's going on, and eating yogurt like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And Miss Wendy back there makes the best food. I love her food. Even when I go do outreach in Fuller, I'm like, hey, put me up a plate. Miss Wendy's awesome. Just a great group of people, man.
Yeah.
And y'all care. That's I think what a lot of people are missing.
I think we're trying to change that. Will went through there at a different time than you.
Yeah, it was like a mini center point when I went through there. Okay. It was way stricter. Angela from IT was actually the supervisor, and Matt's job didn't even exist yet, so it was a lot slimmer, and it was, if you walk up to that line and don't ask permission, you're going to get some words, and it was really like we had community every day. Your peers could hold you accountable, and we're coming in off the street, so you got somebody who's been spun for the last 3 years holding you accountable. Yeah. But it was what I needed. Because the book, the AA book talks about, we're people that's undisciplined, and that was me. I had no structure. I'd never answered to anybody, and to be in a place that made me sit still long enough to look at myself and didn't care if I liked it or not. I needed that, man.
For sure.
Everybody always assumes I was court ordered because of my attitude. I wasn't court ordered to treatment. I actually was playing the pity pot one day, and my wife had left me, and I'd lost my kids, and I was like, well, I'm going to kill myself. And they called my bluff and called 911. And they took me to the crisis center, and which I had taken a bunch of pills, and they was like, what can we do to help you?
Right.
And I said, man, I probably should go to rehab. But then when I got there, I didn't want to be there.
I was just kidding.
They started telling me I was an alcoholic, and I was like, no.
You're not understanding here.
This one drug that I need to stop doing. I can do everything else.
Yeah, I heard a lot of that too when I was there. If I could just stop doing the mth, I was my exact thing. Marijuana. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh well, I definitely get down with that, man. Yeah. And it's cool to see you guys that went through without the DOC entity behind Matt and you.
Not me.
It was. I'd been in and out of jail, but they never. One time they court ordered me to treatment, and I was so out there that I didn't follow. I didn't even go get an assessment, so I just went to jail.
Yeah,
and didn't even know that happened actually. But I was at rock bottom. I had no other options in life. My family had finally started turning on me. My dad died about I'm gonna say 13 months before I went to treatment.
Yeah.
And I just had nothing else. I lost my kids. Wife left me. The whole story that you hear, and I didn't know what else to do. And when I went there, it was one of them bittersweet things. Everything I was hearing pissed me off, but everything I was hearing was true.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was going to have to do something different if I was going to have a life worth living. And I can remember sitting there and being so mad because I looked at my life and I hadn't accomplished anything.
Man.
Had nothing. And, they were telling me, well, if you do what we're telling you to do, you'll have a life worth something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know these people. And they're asking me to trust them with my life. And then I was like, well, you don't have a life to begin with.
Yeah.
So
It is
might
so
as well
good to
take
hear
a chance.
It's so good to hear you say that, because this is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And these people, I was like, well, these people obviously know better than I do because they look happy. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'll be darned, I did what they asked, and it's not like it was that hard. But that when you're still coming off of all the drugs, and you're still mad at yourself and all that stuff, it's hard to take suggestions at that point, because it feels like somebody's telling you what to do. We don't like that.
No, I definitely don't. And yelling at me and telling me I can't do this, you're going to give me words for leaving my light on. Oh, man.
Don't go through that door. I remember that. I still, when I go Fuller, I still put myself to the men's side.
Yeah.
It's ingrained, man.
Trained you good.
Yeah, boy.
You gotta have the strict gender separation. You gotta have it,
I can
man.
understand that.
Yeah, but we are trying to, and I don't know, good, bad, indifferent, or whatever. Try to make people feel more comfortable there.
Yeah,
It probably worked for a lot of people the way it was ran before. A couple of things we're trying to do different is get connected. Get connected to these outside sources. Turning Point and Center Point we've been connected to. We want to maintain that. We've got some new ways we're doing it. If you went through Center Point before and you don't want to go back, which I always like, well, why not? But if you don't want to go back, there's that. They're letting people back into Phase 2 communities sometimes, and YPR. I've got another lady coming from Fuller, or not Fuller, I got that in my mind. Four Rivers coming from the corporate office, and she's going to be talking about women with pregnancy and addiction, and
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and I never thought. I was like, well, we don't have very many women, and then she was like, hey, look, they could have the boyfriends or the guys in there could have girlfriends.
Yeah.
And, you never know what could be happening. I know that's a common thing. It's not. It's not something we advertise because people are probably ashamed of it, much like most addiction stuff. But it's a serious issue. My first rehab, that one I was 15, there was a girls' side, and I seen almost every girl that I seen, which they did a really strict gender separation there. They were all pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were like 16, 17. But,
That is crazy.
Yeah. Almost every one of them were. I like you could tell they were far along, so that's how I knew.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Our community is in the process of healing. While we rebuild physically, it's important not to neglect our mental health. Common responses to traumatic events can include grief, anxiety, depression, trouble sleeping, or even fear. These feelings are normal reactions. When these feelings become too hard to manage on your own, consider calling the 24-hour crisis line at 1-800-592-3980. Help is just a call away.
Every day, an average of 130 people die from an opioid overdose.
Opioid overdose is the leading cause of death among adults 50 and younger in the United States.
Naloxbox helps save the lives of overdose victims, and there are now over 600 units installed nationwide. But we can do better.
Each unit increases access to naloxone, it reduces the stigma that's often associated with opioid overdose, and it works to save lives one box at a time. We hate that there are so many places in this country that need naloxbox units, but the truth of the matter is there are still so many more that need them. Although rescue should not be the only strategy used to address this epidemic, it remains a very important one. You have the chance to improve victim outcomes and the chance to reduce overdose deaths. Whether you're in the private or public sector, you can make a statement that you care. You can install a naloxbox, and you can help us save lives.
All right, so to get into Fuller, is it just referral, or can somebody just walk up and say, hey, I need help, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so y'all have been a great connection.
Well,
Referral wise, y'all have been a great connection. But give us a call. You can Google it, and you can give us a call, and we'll set up an assessment. Depending on your situation, they may get you in sooner, they may get you in later. We're right now working on getting our bed numbers up so we can get more people in, so the waiting list is not too long. Remember, it's only 28 days, so our turnover rate's pretty high, so we can get people in there fairly fast, within a week or so at the latest. But normally, if circumstances are right, we can get you there within a couple days. We want to make sure you're safe, We really want to make sure you're safe. If we can house you, we're going to take you, But it's all kinds of ways. There's also their DOC do refer sometimes. Normally, if they're referring to us, they're trying to get them somewhere else, too, We're like the in-between.
The gateway.
Yeah, we are the gateway place, Hey, I don't mind that being us. Matter of fact, like I said, we're scratching the surface. Very few come to us and go through just our center. And the ones that do, we've had some success.
Yeah.
I can name about 3 or 4 people off the top of my head, but I can name handfuls upon handfuls of people that's went through our center and then went through Centerpoint and have maintained at least 2 years of sobriety.
I'm one of them sitting right here.
Yeah, me as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I've built relationships there that just there, I think it was in that process of that scratching the surface, peeling back that onion. I built these relationships that have just lasted. Because, it's like when you go through pain with somebody together, it kind of, I don't know, I'm not going to say trauma bond, but it was, I felt what they felt, and I still have those relationships. Like I said, I guarantee, I still have my books from when I was in Fuller in my closet. I had to get my cat off of it this morning. It's kind of crazy. I thought about that forever.
Those are vintage now.
Yeah,
so
no.
The question is, and this is one of the reasons why we come here today, is how do you get those people in, like y'all's situation, that don't have those DOC, don't have a lot of consequences. They're just seeking help because that's what we're there for. We're like, if you have insurance and you go to the hospital because you broke your arm, you need help, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You expect your insurance to pay for that help. And the same goes for us. We're there to help, and we're just people coming in on their own is far in between. A lot of people tell you they're on their own.
Yeah,
And then they got a court order.
They got a warrant.
The warrant thing's a big one.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the bridge that we're trying to figure out.
I have to say, y'all's would you call Barbara the administrative staff type deal?
Yeah, so
she is a resource out of this world.
Yeah.
Man. All I gotta do is just call her up and be like, "Hey, what can we do?"
Yeah, she's amazing.
She was the first person I remember sitting in that chair by the TV, just watching TV. Like, what are we gonna do now? And here comes Barbara, and she was, she was my first idea of, it's the whole game. It's something. Matt, you missed out, bro.
We got a bed.
I don't know how I skipped the Fuller Center. I just got lucky and went straight into Centerpoint off the street. I was just ready for something else. Like, I guess because I was old, they never tried to send me to treatment before. When I was getting trouble young, they weren't sending people to treatment. I was going to jail, and that was it. There was no options like that, And plus, I wasn't ready. If I'd have gone, I'm really impressed by the young people that come in and actually take advantage of the opportunities that these programs offer and change their lives, because I know that I wouldn't have been when I was that age. I just wasn't ready. I needed all the pain I could get, and I got it. So that's what it took for me. But I really appreciate what you guys do over there. It's awesome. You're setting such a great example for everybody, for us, for others. Hopefully more people will come out there. Hopefully we'll get some women in out there.
Yeah.
You're doing great things. We appreciate you guys for coming on today. We're on YouTube, obviously. We have audio versions on Google, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, all those. So click the link in the description. And thanks again, guys, for coming. Stay grateful.
Thanks for having us on.
Wow, that was.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or in recovery and needs guidance, speak with Turning Point's team of peer support specialists by calling 270-444-3621. You are not alone, and we are proof that recovery is possible.